When discussing some of the best young players in the league, there's no doubt that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander belongs in that categorization of young talents. The 23-year-old point/shooting guard was thrust into the limelight in the blockbuster trade that sent Paul George to the Clippers and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, and a comical amount of future first-round picks to Oklahoma City, making SGA the de facto future franchise guy for the Thunder. Now, we saw flashes of what Shai was capable of during his time with the Clippers, and even got to see him improve into last year and even this most recent season. There seems to be a lot of conflicting opinions on just how good Shai actually is/could potentially be, and unfortunately, I see a lot of the talk coming from people that I know definitely didn't watch OKC this year. Bleacher Report is dropping their redrafts, and their redraft of the 2018 draft had some questionable choices being picked over Shai. Now, I'm not going to be comparing Shai to any of these guys because they all have different strengths, they have different weaknesses, they have different perceived ceilings, and they all play different positions. Trying to compare them would be a fool's errand. Now, I myself am a diehard OKC fan, so I definitely did watch them play last year, and while I may be just a tad bit biased, I am going to do my best to objectively break down SGA's game and what my expectations are for him going forward as OKC looks to successfully rebuild for the Thunder to make a return to the promised land. We're going to be covering a lot in this video, so be sure to stick around until the end so that you don't miss anything. Now, Shai really did have a great season last year, despite only playing 35 games and eventually being sidelined for the season with plantar fasciitis. Now, just to touch on the injury really quick, I wouldn't be terribly worried about it as it's a fairly routine injury among athletes, given the amount of time that he's had to recover and the level of care that he's likely receiving. This isn't really an injury that tends to have long-term impact on a player's career. Now, while he did miss roughly half the season, the half that he did play, we saw him playing at a legitimate all-star level. He put up 23.7 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 5.9 assists per game on a true shot percentage of 62.3%. That's 5.1% better than the league average true shot percentage. Shai is legitimately among the most efficient guards in the entire NBA. Now, for him to be only 23 with already elite levels of efficiency is something that has me really, really excited for his future. Now, as far as perimeter shooting goes, he shoots 40% or higher on pull-up threes, catch-and-shoot threes, above the break threes, and corner threes. He also has such a smooth handle, so his ability to create for himself to get an open three-point shot is really, really promising. He's shown that he has a reliable step back, and his shot from a technical standpoint is really clean and fundamentally sound. This is supported by his three-point shot creation rating, which looks at a player's ability to create three-point looks for themselves. He ranks in the top 1% of the league in three-point shot creation rating, and he's also in the top 8% of the league in perimeter shooting in general. One area of Shai's game that's been getting a lot more credit lately is his elite-level finishing ability. Now, believe it or not, according to Basketball Index's overall finishing talent grade, Shai is the second best guard finisher in the entire NBA behind De'Aaron Fox. Shai led the league in adjusted drives per 75 possessions, ranked at the top of the league in getting to the rim rating, and was overall among the most elite finishers in the entire league in almost every single finishing statistic available. He's got great ball handling ability coupled with good footwork, and he's good at finding open lanes to the basket or creating one for himself. It's incredible what he's been able to do while simultaneously being essentially the only go-to scoring option on OKC this year. We've seen the elevation of his playmaking ability this year as well. Being mentored by Chris Paul was probably one of the best things that could have happened to him. There were questions about whether or not Shai would be able to be a true point guard that can facilitate and run your offense. And I think we've seen that he's capable of it. Sure, 5.9 assists per game doesn't really sound like a lot, but you also have to remember that OKC was not a good team this year, and he didn't have a whole lot of help out there. He generates 16.1 assist points per 75 possessions with 6.2 high-value assists per 75 possessions. He's got really, really good scoring gravity, so it's becoming a lot easier for him to kick out to open shooters when he's attacking the basket. He boasts an 11.4 box creation, meaning he creates 11.4 open shots for his teammates per 100 possessions. His overall playmaking talent grade, which is another score from basketballindex.com that takes into account just about every aspect of playmaking, clocks in at a 2.21, ranking him in the top 3% of the NBA in playmaking talent. Now, as far as Shai's defense goes, obviously he's not an elite defender by any means, but he has shown the ability to be a serviceable defender, and he's far from a liability on defense, which I think is really important to distinct here. I think this is the biggest area of his game that needs improvement. It's not that he's necessarily a bad defender, it's just that right now he's more of a contributor on defense instead of being a bona fide two-way player. His physical tools make him a really intriguing defensive prospect. He's 6'5" with a 6'11" wingspan, so it's not like there's any lack of physical tools for him to utilize on the defensive end. One thing that I do like and I think is worth noting is the fact that Shai is going to be able to develop with Luguentz Dort, who is a defensive nightmare right now, and Shai will have the opportunity to learn from Dort and maybe pick some things up as far as defensive aggressiveness and point of attack defense. He's not a bad defender by any stretch, and he actually is a better defender than a lot of the guys on these players under 25 lists that have been making the rounds lately, but there's certainly room for him to grow as far as defense goes. So all of this is what Shai can do with a less than ideal NBA roster. Imagine him with a co-star and a truly solid supporting cast. As some of our young guys develop, Shai is also going to continue to improve, because at the end of the day, basketball is a team game and you can only do so much on your own. You need a solid supporting cast in order to be successful. I can't figure out why Shai doesn't seem to really get the level of respect that he warrants in these redrafts, best players under 25 lists, and all the things that are being released lately in this boring offseason. He's honestly a really flashy player, and he has great highlights on a nightly basis. You'd think that Bleacher Report and House of Highlights would be rushing to post videos of his highlights. OKC is a small market team, so I'd imagine that probably plays a big role. And pages like Bleacher Report and House of Highlights and ESPN aren't really rushing to post the latest from an OKC game at any point during the season. But once OKC returns to the playoffs, I think a lot more people are going to be made aware of what SGA is capable of. He just signed his max contract extension, and for the foreseeable future, he's the franchise guy for the Thunder, and I fully expect him to be a perennial all-star and most likely become an all-NBA level talent at some point in his career, sooner more likely than later. So do you think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be an all-star next year? Be sure to leave a comment below and let me know. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, because that is the best way to support me with the algorithm. And if you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm posting NBA content like this multiple times a week. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and check out my Patreon. I just released that. I'm going to be posting some bonus content on there, so be sure to go check it out and see if it's something you're interested in. All those links will be in the description, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.